The ride into camp the night before was exciting, and just before we arrived, Drew took a spill after becoming distracted by Keith.
I looked right when you did that.
Despite being tired from the day before, we woke up early in an attempt to gain some ground on our total distance. Our campground at Deadwood was full of hunters, so it was easier to get up when the rest of the campground woke at 5. It was a chilly ride on newly graded roads from Deadwood to Yellow Pine. We followed a creek most of the way as it wound through prairies, trees, and a mountain pass. Yellow Pine was just what we needed to restock on food, bourbon, and gas. We had a little lunch and got back on the route towards Elk Summit. Keith and I kept trading the lead, and we had a great pace going. The climbs were steep, and we stood for most of the day, only sitting to rest our legs and arms.
Good job, perfect form.
We came around one corner on a high pass, and there was a bear cub sitting in the
See
trail.
a bigger one?
He ran off as soon as I turned my camera off. He was a yearling, and there was no sign of Mama, so we stopped to see him watching us from behind a tree.
See him?
Drew saw a wasp's nest on the ground, torn apart, likely by the cub. Elk Summit was eerie and beautiful. It had been ravaged by wildfire and was covered with the dead, standing tombstones of the forest it used to be. We descended into an old mining site. It was hot and there was a river at the bottom, so we decided to take a dip. It was our first bath in 2 days. The water was very cold, but we were dry nearly as soon as we got out. Next up was Warren Summit. The road was cut into a steep rocky hillside with no trees, so you could see all the way down. Keith and I raced to the top. We passed through the small town of Warren, which was apparently out of gas. The next gas stop was near Bergdorf, but it was closed when we got there. So we had to decide if we would try to make it to Elk City on the fuel I had left, or take a detour to Riggins. I didn't want to chance it, since it would be close even with the reserve fuel I brought. We descended again. On the way down, we saw the infamous bus that was discarded and disgraced on the side of the road. As we played around inside, we wondered what the story was behind the bus and how it came to its final resting place high above the Salmon River. The last part of the descent was full of switchbacks carved into the steepest hillside any of us has ever experienced. We joked that if you fell off the side, you might bounce off the switchback below, but most likely you would end up on the banks of the Salmon. We made it to Riggins for fuel and dinner. Then we found a beach to camp on near Allison Creek. It was so warm and dry we didn't even set up our tents. I used the hammock for the first time on the trip and slept under the stars. It might have been the best sleep I've had since we started.
I mean, this is pretty impressive. It still has the newspaper that they were putting the walls to block out the airflow. James Mosier died September 1910. Age 46.
They decided to make that road like straight down.
Pretty much.
Amazing.